The airbag dust was still settling when I realized my wife's phone had landed in my lap. I'm Tyler Brennan, and I'd just rear-ended a Lexus at a red light on Route 9 because I'd been arguing with Jessica about her girls' weekend to Miami. The impact wasn't severe, maybe 10 miles per hour, but enough to deploy the airbags and send everything in our Honda flying forward. "Are you okay?" I asked, my ears ringing. Jessica didn't answer. She was staring at her phone in my lap, her face drained of color. Not worried about me, not checking herself for injuries, just staring at that phone with an expression I'd never seen before. Pure, undiluted panic. I looked down. The screen was lit up, unlocked from the impact. A text message filled the display. "Can't wait for Miami. Tell Tyler you're staying at the Marriott, but you're actually at my place on South Beach. 3 days of just us. I'm counting down the hours, baby." The sender's name was simply Jim. My hands went numb. The world tilted sideways despite the car being perfectly still. "Tyler, I can explain." Jessica's voice sounded distant, underwater. "Jim?" I heard myself say. "You saved his name as Jim?" A knock on my window made me jump. The driver I'd hit, a middle-aged woman in a business suit, was asking if we were all right. I nodded automatically, muscle memory taking over. I grabbed my insurance card from the glove box, stepped out into the October afternoon, and went through the motions of exchanging information. My body moved independently while my brain tried to process what I just read. Jessica stayed in the car. Smart. If she'd stepped out, I might have said something I couldn't take back in front of a witness. The other driver was understanding. Minimal damage to both vehicles. We took photos, swapped details, and agreed to let insurance handle it. The whole interaction took maybe 10 minutes, but it felt like hours. When I got back in the car, Jessica had been crying. Her mascara had run, creating dark trails down her cheeks. She was clutching her phone to her chest like a life preserver. "Give me the phone," I said quietly. "Tyler, please, give me the phone." "It's not what you think," I laughed. Actually laughed. The sound came out harsh and foreign. "It's not what I think?" "Jessica, the message literally says you're lying to me about where you're staying so you can spend 3 days with another man." "I haven't done anything yet," she blurted out. "Yet." That word hung in the air between us like poison gas. "How long?" I asked. "Nothing has happened." "How long?" She was quiet for a moment, then whispered. 6 months. 6 months. Half a year. I did the math automatically. That was right after our 8th anniversary. The anniversary where I'd surprised her with a weekend at that bed and breakfast in Vermont she'd been wanting to visit. Where we'd renewed our vows privately on a hilltop at sunset, just the two of us and the photographer I'd hired. "Who is he?" My voice sounded calm. Too calm. "His name is Brandon. Brandon Wolf. He's a personal trainer at Fitness First." Of course he was. Jessica had joined that gym in April, claiming she wanted to get in shape. I'd encouraged her, paid for the premium membership myself, even complimented her when she started looking more toned, more confident. I'd funded my own humiliation. "Have you slept with him?" I needed to know, even though the answer would destroy me either way. She hesitated too long. "Have you?" "Yes." A whisper. Then stronger, as if confession granted absolution. "Yes, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Tyler. It just happened." "Don't." I held up my hand. "Don't you dare say it just happened. You made choices. You chose to join that gym, chose to work with him, chose to give him your number, chose to save his contact under a fake name, chose to plan a trip with him, chose to lie to me about it. Those weren't accidents. Those were decisions. I love you. Stop talking." I started the car. The engine turned over smoothly despite the collision. I pulled back into traffic, heading home instead of to the restaurant where we'd had reservations. Our 10th anniversary dinner at Marcello's, the Italian place where I'd proposed. I'd requested our same table, had the ring from our engagement resized as a surprise gift. The ring box was in my jacket pocket. I could feel it pressing against my ribs. "Where are we going?" Jessica asked. "Home." "Tyler, we need to talk about this." "We will. At home. Where I can think straight without worrying about driving into another car." The rest of the 15-minute drive passed in silence. Jessica cried quietly. I focused on the road, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. My mind was racing. 8 years of marriage, 10 years together total. We'd met at Boston College, both juniors, both business majors. She'd been funny, ambitious, beautiful. We'd built a life together. Bought our house in Brookline 3 years ago. Talked about starting a family next year once her career at the marketing firm stabilized. Had any of it been real? Or had I been living in a fantasy while she auditioned my replacement? We pulled into our driveway. The house looked exactly as it had when we'd left an hour ago. White colonial with black shutters, mums I'd planted last weekend flanking the front steps. But everything had changed. I turned off the engine and sat there, staring at the garage door. "Tyler, I need you to be completely honest with me," I interrupted. "No more lies, no more excuses. Can you do that?" She nodded, wiping her eyes. "Are you in love with him?" The pause before her answer told me everything I needed to know. I watched her mouth open. Close. Open again. "I don't know," Jessica whispered. 3 words. That's all it took. I don't know. Not no. Not, of course not. Not, Tyler, you're my husband. I made a mistake. I don't know. The ring box pressed against my ribs like a stone. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled it out. Navy velvet, small enough to hide in my palm. I'd spent 2 months working with the jeweler, getting her original engagement ring resized, adding the anniversary band to nest with it. 10 years. A decade of my life. I set it on the dashboard between us. "I was going to give you this tonight," I said. "At Marcello's. Same table where I proposed." Jessica stared at the box. Her hand moved toward it, then stopped. "Tyler, don't." I opened my door. "I'm going inside. You can either come in and pack a bag, or you can drive to Brandon's place right now. Your choice." I didn't wait for an answer. My legs felt disconnected from my body as I walked up the driveway, past the mums Jessica had planted last weekend, up the porch steps. The key turned in the lock. Inside, everything looked exactly as we'd left it an hour ago. Jessica's coffee mug on the counter. My laptop open on the kitchen table. The framed photo from our wedding hanging in the hallway. Jessica in white, me in my tux, both of us laughing. I heard her car door close. Footsteps on the gravel. She came inside, makeup streaked down her face, still clutching her phone. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Upstairs, to pack." "Good." She stopped at the bottom of the stairs. "Tyler, please. Can we just talk about—" "There's nothing to talk about." I walked past her into the kitchen, opened the cabinet, pulled out a glass. My hands were steadier now. The shock was wearing off, replaced by something colder. "You've been sleeping with him for 6 months. You planned a trip to Miami to be with him. You don't know if you love him. What exactly is there to discuss?" "I never meant for this to happen." "Right. You just accidentally ended up in bed with him, multiple times, for half a year." "It wasn't like that." I filled the glass with water, drank it, set it down carefully on the granite countertop we'd picked out together 3 years ago. "Then what was it like, Jessica? Explain it to me." She wrapped her arms around herself. "He listened to me. I listen to you." "No, you don't. You hear me, but you don't listen. When I told you I was unhappy at work, you said I should just ask for a raise. When I said I felt like we were in a rut, you booked another weekend in Vermont, the same bed and breakfast we always go to. You love that place. I used to love it, 5 years ago, but we've been there 8 times, Tyler. 8 times to the same place, ordering the same food, having the same conversations. I laughed. The sound came out wrong. So you solved that problem by sleeping with your personal trainer. I'm not saying it was right. I'm saying I felt invisible, and Brandon saw me. Brandon. I said his name carefully, testing it. How old is he? She hesitated. 26. Jesus Christ. I turned away from her, stared out the window at our backyard. The swing set was still there from the previous owners. We'd talked about taking it down, but never got around to it. Does he know you're married? Yes. And he doesn't care. He thinks we have a connection. A connection. I turned back to face her. You're 32 years old, Jessica. You have a master's degree, a career, a house, and you threw it away for a 26-year-old personal trainer who thinks you have a connection. It's not just physical, she said. We talk about real things, about dreams, and stop. I held up my hand. I don't want to hear about your dreams with Brandon. Go upstairs, pack your things, and get out of my house. It's our house. Not anymore. She stood there for a long moment, tears running down her face, phone still in her hand. Then she turned and went upstairs. I heard drawers opening and closing, the closet door sliding, the sound of a suitcase being dragged across the bedroom floor. I stayed in the kitchen, drinking water, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother Jake. Still on for the game Sunday. I'd forgotten about that. Sunday, football, beer. Normal things that happened in a normal life. A life I'd had this morning and didn't have anymore. I didn't answer. Jessica came back down 20 minutes later with a rolling suitcase and a duffel bag. She'd changed clothes, jeans and a sweater instead of the black dress. She'd washed her face. She looked younger without the makeup, like the girl I'd met at Boston College 10 years ago. I'm staying at Amy's, she said. Amy was her college roommate, lived in Cambridge. I'll call you tomorrow and we can figure out. There's nothing to figure out. I'm filing for divorce. She flinched. Tyler, please. Don't make any decisions right now. You're upset. We both are. Let's just take a few days and… You took 6 months, I said. 6 months of lying to me. 6 months of sleeping with him. 6 months of planning trips and having connections and falling in love. I think a few days is generous. I didn't say I was in love with him. You said you didn't know. That's worse. She set down her bags, took a step toward me. I love you, Tyler. I do. I got confused. And I made a terrible mistake. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can… No. Please. You need to leave now. She picked up her bags, walked to the door, stopped with her hand on the knob. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't answer. The door closed. I heard her suitcase wheels on the porch, her car starting, the sound of tires on gravel fading down the street. Then silence. I stood in the kitchen for a long time. The house felt different, emptier, like something had been carved out of it. Finally, I moved, went to the living room, sat down on the couch, pulled out my phone. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for. David Patterson. We'd gone to Boston College together, stayed friends after graduation. He'd gone to law school, specialized in family law. Divorce. I'd been to his wedding 2 years ago. Jessica and I had danced at the reception, laughed at the best man speech, driven home talking about how lucky David was to find someone like his wife Claire. I typed out a message. Need to talk. Can you meet tomorrow? The response came back in less than a minute. Of course. My office at 10? Everything okay? No. See you tomorrow. I set the phone down, looked around the living room. The throw pillows Jessica had bought last month. The bookshelf we'd assembled together, arguing about the instructions. The TV we'd watched 100 movies on. Our life. Or what used to be our life. I thought about the ring box, still sitting on the dashboard of the Honda. I should go get it. Bring it inside. Put it somewhere safe. Instead, I sat there in the silence, watching the shadows lengthen across the floor as the sun went down. My phone buzzed again. I picked it up, expecting Jake or David. It was Jessica. "I'm so sorry. I love you. Please don't give up on us." I stared at the message, read it 3 times. Then I blocked her number. The playground sat empty in the gray November drizzle. I stood at my kitchen window, coffee mug cooling in my hand, watching the red plastic slide darken with moisture. 3 weeks since Jessica left. 2 weeks since David filed the initial paperwork. 1 week since I'd moved through the house like a ghost, barely sleeping, barely eating. The swing set swayed slightly in the wind. I'd bought it last summer. Jessica and I had talked about kids, eventually. After her promotion. After we'd traveled more. After. The swings had been an investment in a future that no longer existed. Now they hung there like a monument to my stupidity. Movement caught my eye. The Caldwell kid from next door, Emma, maybe 7 or 8, had climbed through the gap in our shared fence. She made a beeline for the swings despite the rain, her yellow raincoat bright against the gray morning. I should probably tell her to go home. Her mother wouldn't want her in a stranger's yard. Except I wasn't a stranger. I'd lived here 3 years. Waved at the Caldwells over the fence. Helped retrieve their dog when it got loose last spring. Emma pumped her legs, gaining height. The chains creaked rhythmically. I turned away from the window. Not my problem, not my responsibility. I had enough to deal with. David wanted me to compile financial records going back 3 years. Bank statements, credit card bills, anything showing marital assets. The house alone was worth close to $700,000 now. Jessica would want her half. My phone buzzed on the counter. Another text from Jessica's number, somehow getting through despite the block. She'd been using different apps, different numbers. Always the same message variations. "We need to talk, please. I made a mistake. I love you." I deleted it without reading past the preview. The coffee had gone cold. I poured it down the sink and grabbed my jacket. A walk might clear my head. Maybe I'd finally sleep tonight without seeing Jessica's face when she'd said she didn't know if she loved him. The drizzle had turned to proper rain by the time I stepped outside. Emma was still on the swings, soaked through, her hood fallen back. "Hey," I called across the yard. "You're going to catch pneumonia." She dragged her feet to slow down, looking over at me. "It's just rain." "Does your mom know you're over here?" "She's at work." Emma shrugged, starting to pump again. "Dad's home, but he's on a call. He said to play outside." Right. The Caldwells. Brian worked from home doing something with software. His wife Rachel was a nurse with irregular shifts. I'd seen her leaving in scrubs at odd hours. "Well, maybe play in your own yard?" I tried to keep my voice friendly. The last thing I needed was a neighborhood drama on top of everything else. "Your swings are better." She went higher. "Plus, I can see stuff from here." "See stuff?" "Uh-huh." Another pump. "Like last week. I saw that lady kissing a man who's not you." The world tilted slightly. "What?" Emma pointed toward the back corner of the yard, where the privacy fence gave way to hedges. "Over there by the bench. They were kissing a lot. Like, a lot. It was gross." My throat had gone dry. "When was this?" "Last week. Wednesday, maybe? After school?" She dragged her feet again, this time coming to a complete stop. "Was that your sister or something?" "Something like that." The words came out automatically. "You should head home now, Emma. Rain's getting worse. She looked up at the sky, then back at me. Okay, bye, Mr. Brennan. I watched her squeeze back through the fence gap, then turned toward the bench. The wooden seat Jessica had insisted on buying at that overpriced garden center in Newton. She'd said it would be perfect for morning coffee in the summer. Wednesday of last week. That would have been November 8th. Jessica had officially moved out on October 27th. She'd been staying with Amy, or so she claimed. But she still had a key to the house. I'd been meaning to change the locks but hadn't gotten around to it. The rain soaked through my jacket as I walked to the bench. Nothing there except wet wood and fallen leaves. But Emma had seen them. Jessica and Brandon, here in my backyard. In the space I'd paid for, maintained, improved. My phone was in my hand before I'd consciously decided to call David. Tyler, everything okay? I need to change the locks, today. Good idea. Should have done it already. I heard papers rustling. What brought this on? Neighbor's kid just told me she saw Jessica here last week, with him, in my backyard. Silence on the other end. Then, you're sure? Kid described them kissing by the bench. She thought Jessica was my sister. The words tasted bitter. They were here, David, on my property. That's trespassing, technically. More rustling. Did you give her permission to be there after she moved out? No. Then document this. Write down exactly what the kid said, when she said it, what she described. Time, date, location, everything. I was already walking back toward the house. I'm going to install cameras. That's your right. It's your property. David's voice took on a careful tone. But Tyler, don't do anything stupid. No confrontation. No showing up at Brandon's place. Let me handle this through proper channels. I'm just protecting my property. Right. Keep it that way. He paused. How are you holding up otherwise? Fine. Tyler, I need to go. I'll send you that documentation. I ended the call before he could push further. Inside, I shook off my wet jacket and opened my laptop. A quick search brought up dozens of home security systems. I wanted something good. Something that would catch everything in high definition. Something that would stream directly to my phone. I settled on a system with 4 cameras, motion detection, and cloud storage. 2-day shipping. I entered my credit card information and confirmed the order. Then I opened a new document and started typing everything Emma had said. The date, the time, her exact words, the location she'd pointed to, her description of the kissing. My fingers paused over the keyboard. A 7-year-old kid had seen my wife making out with her boyfriend in my backyard. While I'd been at work, probably. While I'd been sitting in my office reviewing quarterly reports, Jessica had been here, violating the one space that should have been safe. The document saved automatically. I emailed it to David, then sat back and stared at the ceiling. The cameras would arrive Wednesday. I'd install them Thursday. I could take a personal day, position them to cover the whole yard, especially that back corner. The bench, the swing set, every angle. If Jessica came back, I'd know. If she brought Brandon again, I'd have proof. Video evidence of her trespassing, of her complete disregard for boundaries. David could use it in the divorce proceedings. Show the judge exactly what kind of person she was. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Tyler, please. I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. 10 years has to mean something. I blocked the number and set my phone face down on the table. 10 years did mean something. It meant I'd wasted a decade on someone who could throw it away for a 26-year-old personal trainer. Someone who could sneak into my backyard for secret meetings while pretending to be sorry. The rain drummed against the windows. I pulled up the security camera order confirmation and read through the specifications again. Night vision, 4K resolution, 160-degree field of view. Motion alerts sent directly to my phone. Wednesday couldn't come fast enough. I looked out the window one more time. The swings moved in the wind, their chains creating that same rhythmic creak. Emma's words echoed in my head. Like, a lot. It was gross. Yeah, kid, it was. The cameras arrived 3 days later. I installed them myself on a gray Saturday morning, drilling mounting brackets into the trim above the back door and near the garage. 2 angles covering the driveway, one overlooking the backyard. The app connected seamlessly to my phone. Live feed, motion alerts, cloud storage for 30 days. I tested the backyard camera by walking to the swing set. On my phone screen, I watched myself in real time, standing where Emma had seen Jessica and Brandon. The image quality was sharp even in overcast light. At night, infrared would kick in. I sent David an email with the camera specifications and installation date, documentation. Then I waited. November in Brookline meant early darkness and bare trees. I worked from home most days now, laptop at the kitchen table where I could see the driveway. The cameras sent motion alerts for every squirrel and passing car, but I checked each one. Jessica's texts had stopped after I blocked her number. Amy's hadn't. Tyler, please. She's devastated. She made a mistake. Can we talk? I deleted them without responding. On Tuesday afternoon, my phone buzzed. Motion detected. Backyard. I pulled up the feed. A deer nosing around the fence line. Wednesday, backyard again. Just wine moving the swings. Thursday, driveway, mail truck. Friday evening, I was heating leftover Chinese food when the alert came. Driveway. 6:47 p.m. I opened the app. Jessica's Lexus pulled in slowly, headlights sweeping across the garage door. She parked where she always had, driver's side closest to the walkway. The interior light came on when she opened the door. She wasn't alone. Brandon got out of the passenger seat. Taller than I'd imagined, wearing a North Face jacket and jeans. He said something to Jessica over the roof of the car. She nodded, looking toward the house. My house. They walked to the front door together. I switched to the front-facing camera view. Jessica pulled out her key, the one I hadn't asked her to return because David said it was better to let her incriminate herself. She was about to use it when Brandon touched her arm, said something. She hesitated, then rang the doorbell instead. I stood in the kitchen, phone in hand, watching them on the screen. The doorbell echoed through the empty rooms. Jessica rang again. Waited. Checked her phone. Brandon leaned against the porch railing, hands in his pockets. Comfortable. Like he belonged there. They waited 3 minutes. I timed it. Then Jessica tried the door handle, locked. And they walked back to the car. Brief conversation. Jessica gestured toward the backyard. I switched camera views. They came around the side of the house, Jessica leading. She'd taken this route 1,000 times, knew exactly where the gate latch was even in the dark. The motion sensor light clicked on, flooding the yard with white light. Brandon followed her to the swing set. She sat on one swing. He stood behind her, hands on the chains, and pushed gently. She leaned back, said something that made him smile. Even through the camera, even in the harsh LED light, I could see the easy familiarity between them. This wasn't their first time here. Emma had seen them once. How many other times had there been? Jessica stood, turned to face him. He pulled her close. They kissed, longer this time, his hands on her waist, her arms around his neck. The same swing set where I'd proposed, where we'd talked about putting up a playset someday when we had kids. I recorded the screen with my phone's screen capture function, creating a backup of the backup. Sent it to David with a timestamp. Then I opened the neighborhood app, Nextdoor, and navigated to the safety section. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The post wrote itself. Concerned about suspicious activity at 47 Maple Ridge Road. 2 adults trespassing on property after dark, no permission from homeowner. 1 adult male, mid-20s, 6'2", dark hair, and 1 adult female, early 30s, blonde, observed entering backyard through side gate at 6:52 p.m. on November 21st. Homeowner not present. Unclear what their purpose was. Has anyone else noticed unfamiliar people in the area? Should we notify police? I attached a screenshot from the camera. Brandon and Jessica by the swings, faces clearly visible. Posted. Within 5 minutes, 3 neighbors had responded. I saw that car in your driveway. Thought maybe you had guests. That's scary. We have kids on this street. Definitely call the police non-emergency line. Better safe than sorry. I didn't call the police. Not yet. Instead, I opened a second tab and navigated to the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families website, found the reporting form for suspected child abuse or neglect. My cursor blinked in the empty fields. I didn't fill it out. Not tonight. But I read the criteria carefully. Neglect. Failure to provide adequate supervision. Placing a child at risk through reckless behavior. Exposing a child to dangerous situations or individuals. Brandon was a personal trainer. I'd looked him up. Brandon Wolf, certified through some online program, worked at Fitness First. No criminal record that I could find through basic searches. But what did I really know about him? What did Jessica know? If Jessica wanted to reconcile, if she wanted any custody of the children we didn't have yet but had planned for, she'd need to demonstrate stability, good judgment, trustworthy relationships. I saved the DCF website to my bookmarks. On my phone, the camera showed Jessica and Brandon walking back to her car. They stood by the driver's door for another minute, talking. He kissed her once more, brief and casual, then got in. The Lexus backed out of my driveway at 7:08 p.m. 16 minutes. They'd been on my property for 16 minutes. I downloaded all the footage, created a folder labeled Trespassing Evidence, 1121, and uploaded it to 3 separate cloud storage accounts. The Nextdoor post had 12 responses now. This is exactly why we need better street lighting. Do you know who these people are? My Ring camera might have caught the car. What time did you say? I responded, around 7 p.m., silver Lexus sedan. I'm reviewing my security footage now. We'll update if I learn more. Someone else posted, just checked my camera, got the license plate if you need it. I already had the plate number, had known it for 8 years. But I thanked them anyway. Saturday morning, Emma Caldwell knocked on my door. Her mother stood behind her on the porch, looking apologetic. Emma wanted to tell you something, Claire said. I told her it wasn't necessary, but I saw them again, Emma interrupted. Last night. The lady and the man. They were in your backyard. I know, I said. I have cameras now. Emma's eyes widened. Really? Did you see them? I did. Thank you for telling me the first time, Emma. You were very observant. Claire put her hand on Emma's shoulder. We saw the Nextdoor post. I didn't realize. Tyler, I'm so sorry. If there's anything we can do. Actually, I said, there might be. Would you be willing to write down what Emma saw, both times? Just a simple statement with dates and times. Claire glanced at Emma, then back at me. Understanding crossed her face. For your lawyer? Yes. Of course, I'll email it to you today. After they left, I made coffee and opened my laptop. The Nextdoor post had 23 responses now. Someone had created a separate thread, safety concerns on Maple Ridge Road. The neighborhood watch coordinator had chimed in. I'm compiling a list of recent suspicious activities. Please DM me if you have additional information or footage. I sent her a direct message with the timestamp and a carefully edited clip. Just enough to show 2 people entering my property without permission. Not enough to identify Jessica clearly. Let the neighborhood draw their own conclusions. By Sunday, the Ring camera network had tracked Jessica's Lexus on 4 different streets in the neighborhood over the past 2 weeks. Timestamps, routes, patterns. She'd been circling, coming back, checking to see if I was home. David called Sunday evening. "The camera footage is perfect," he said. "Clear trespassing. And the neighbor's statement about the child witnessing them? That's good too. Shows a pattern of poor judgment." "There's something else," I said. I told him about the next-door posts, the neighborhood watch coordinator, the growing concern about suspicious activity. David was quiet for a moment. "You're playing a long game here." She used her key to bring him to our house, to our backyard, where neighbors' children could see. No children were endangered, Tyler. But they could have been. Emma saw them. What if she'd been on that swing set? What if she'd walked over to say hello and found them? Together. "You're not actually going to file a DCF report." It wasn't a question. "Not yet," I said. "But if she keeps coming back, if she keeps bringing him here, around the neighborhood where kids play..." I let the implication hang. "This could backfire. If it looks like you're weaponizing child services..." "I'm documenting safety concerns, that's all. The neighbors are concerned. Look at the posts." David sighed. "Just be careful. Don't do anything that makes you look vindictive." After we hung up, I opened the DCF form again. Didn't fill it out, just read it. Memorized the language. Reasonable cause to believe a child has been abused or neglected. The cameras would tell me if I needed to take the next step. All I had to do was wait. The cameras caught them again on Thursday. I was at my laptop in the home office when the motion alert pinged. 2:47 p.m. I pulled up the feed and watched Jessica's Lexus roll into the driveway like she still lived here, like she had any right. Brandon got out first, jeans and a fitted black t-shirt that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill. He walked around to open her door, such a gentleman, and she stepped out wearing yoga pants and one of those expensive athleisure jackets. They didn't kiss, didn't touch, just walked side by side toward the backyard gate. Smart. They'd learned from last time. I switched to the backyard camera. Watched them settle onto the swing set, the same one where Emma Caldwell had seen them a week ago. Jessica sat on one swing, Brandon on the other. They swayed gently, talking. I couldn't hear the words, the cameras didn't have audio, but I could read body language. Jessica's shoulders were tight. Brandon kept leaning toward her, earnest, reassuring. My phone buzzed. "David Patterson, got your email," he said when I answered. The next-door post was clever, establishing a pattern of suspicious activity without naming names. Just documenting what I see. Right. A pause. "Tyler, the witness statement from Mrs. Caldwell is solid. Her daughter's testimony about seeing them on your property while you were separated. That's trespassing. Clear cut. But this thing you're researching about DCF reports..." I watched Jessica laugh at something Brandon said. Her hand went to her mouth the way it always did when she was genuinely amused. "I'm just gathering information," I said. "There are no children involved here. You file a false report to Child Protective Services. That's a crime. In Massachusetts, it's a misdemeanor. Possible jail time." "I know." "Then why are you asking me about the reporting criteria?" On screen, Brandon stood and moved behind Jessica's swing. Pushed her gently. She leaned back, let him propel her forward, and for a moment she looked exactly like she had 10 years ago at Boston College, carefree and laughing on the quad after our first date. "Tyler?" "Just covering all my bases," I said. "Thanks for the heads up." I ended the call before he could lecture me further. The truth was, I wasn't going to file a DCF report. David was right. That was a line I wouldn't cross. But I'd spent enough time on the Massachusetts DCF website and forums to understand how the system worked, how reports were investigated, how even unfounded claims created records, required responses, generated stress and scrutiny. I didn't need to actually file anything. I just needed Jessica and Brandon to think someone might. I took screenshots of the camera feed, time-stamped, clear images of both their faces, the property line, the swing set, added them to the folder I'd been building. Then I opened Nextdoor again. The previous post had generated 43 comments, neighbors sharing their own security camera footage, discussing the suspicious couple who'd been spotted in the area. Mrs. Caldwell had commented that her daughter had seen strangers near our property. Several people suggested calling the police. One retired cop recommended filing reports to establish a pattern. I drafted a new post. Update on suspicious activity. Same two individuals returned to neighborhood this afternoon, 2:47 p.m. Captured on home security system. They accessed private property through backyard gate and remained for approx. 30 minutes. Given the elementary school 2 blocks away and several families with young children on this street, I'm concerned about their intentions. Has anyone else noticed them near playgrounds or school zones? Considering filing formal reports with local authorities. Please stay vigilant. I attached one screenshot. Jessica and Brandon at the swing set. Faces clearly visible, but the swing set itself cropped out enough that it just looked like a playground structure. Posted. Within 5 minutes, the comments started rolling in. Definitely call the police. Do you have a description of their vehicle? This is so creepy. Why would adults be hanging around playground equipment? I saw a black Lexus on Maple Street last week. Didn't think anything of it then. That last one made me smile. Maple Street was 3 blocks away. Jessica had probably driven through on her way to Amy's place. But now it was suspicious activity. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message. Jessica's voice tight with panic. Tyler, what the hell are you doing? People are commenting on my Facebook about some Nextdoor post. They're asking if I'm okay, if someone's stalking me. My mom just called asking why neighbors think I'm some kind of predator. You need to take that down. Now, call me back. I deleted the voicemail. An hour later, another call. This time I recognized Amy's number, ignored it. Then a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Brandon. We need to talk. What you're doing is harassment. I blocked the number. At 6:15 p.m., my doorbell rang. I checked the front camera feed. Jessica stood on the porch alone, arms wrapped around herself despite the mild October evening. She looked directly at the camera. I know you're watching, she said to the lens. Please, just talk to me for 5 minutes. I stayed in the office. She rang again. Knocked. Tyler, please, this is insane. You're making it sound like we're doing something to kids. There's a woman on Nextdoor saying she's calling the police. My boss saw the post. Someone tagged the neighborhood watch group and now it's spreading to other apps. Good. I made a mistake, she continued, voice breaking. I know that. I've apologized. But this is cruel. You're trying to ruin my life. I pulled up the divorce filing David had prepared. Scanned through the sections on asset division, the house, the cars. Everything split 50-50 because Massachusetts was a no-fault state. Even with proof of adultery, even with trespassing documentation, the court would divide our assets equitably. Unless Jessica became so desperate to make this go away that she agreed to different terms. I opened a new document and started typing. Proposed settlement agreement. In exchange for immediate removal of all social media posts and public statements, and withdrawal of any potential criminal complaints. 1. Primary residence, Brookline property, to be retained by Tyler Brennan. 2. Jessica Brennan to receive 30% of current equity value as buyout, paid over 24 months. 3. All joint accounts to be divided 60-40 in favor of Tyler Brennan. 4. Jessica Brennan to assume full responsibility for her vehicle loan. 5. No spousal support alimony to be requested by either party. Outside, Jessica was still talking, pleading. My mother is crying. She thinks I'm in danger. Amy's husband asked if I need a restraining order against some stalker. You're twisting everything. I wasn't twisting anything. I was just letting people see what they wanted to see. A couple repeatedly trespassing on private property, hanging around playground equipment, acting suspicious. The neighborhood was drawing its own conclusions. Tyler, she pounded on the door. Answer me. I emailed the settlement proposal to David with a note. Draft this formally. I think she'll be motivated to sign. Then I opened Nextdoor one more time and added a comment to my own post. Update. Individuals return to property again this evening. Female subject currently at front door. Have clear footage of both subjects' faces and vehicle information. We'll be compiling everything for police report tomorrow. Thank you all for your vigilance in keeping our neighborhood safe. My phone exploded with notifications. The post was being shared to adjacent neighborhood groups. Someone had already identified Jessica's Lexus model and partial plate number from one of the screenshots. Jessica's pounding stopped. Through the camera, I watched her pull out her phone, watched her face go pale as she scrolled. She looked back at the camera, and for a moment I saw something I'd never seen before in 10 years together. Fear. Not of me. Of what I'd set in motion. Of the neighbors who were probably watching right now, who were commenting and sharing and speculating. Of the narrative that was building around her, one screenshot and timestamp at a time. She ran to her car. I watched the Lexus reverse out of the driveway too fast, tires squealing slightly. Watched it disappear down the street. Then I poured myself a bourbon and waited for David to call. The Nextdoor post had been live for 47 minutes when my phone started buzzing with direct messages. I sat in my home office, watching the camera feeds on one monitor while tracking the social media response on another. The swing set hung motionless in the backyard. Empty. Jessica hadn't been back since she'd run from the playground yesterday afternoon. The first message came from Diane Pruitt, 3 houses down. Just saw your post. My daughter takes the bus stop right there. Should I be driving her to school? I typed back, probably a good idea until we know what's going on. Better safe than sorry. Then, Kevin Walsh from Maple Street. Do we know if police have been notified? I have security footage from last Tuesday if it helps. Please share with BPD if you have anything, I wrote. The more documentation, the better. My phone rang. David Patterson. I saw the Nextdoor post, he said without preamble. Tyler, we need to talk about this. It's a community safety issue. People have a right to know about suspicious activity in their neighborhood. You're describing your wife. I'm describing 2 adults repeatedly trespassing on private property and loitering near playground equipment. Those are facts. Facts presented in a deliberately misleading context. David's voice carried the careful patience of someone explaining something to a child. You're creating a false narrative that could constitute harassment or defamation. I never mentioned Jessica's name. I never identified anyone. You posted photos. Blurred photos. You can't identify faces. Tyler, he paused. You can identify body types, clothing, the general appearance of 2 people, and everyone in that neighborhood knows Jessica. They know your house. They know your backyard. You're not being as clever as you think you are. I watched the camera feed. The empty swing set swayed slightly in the October wind. She came onto my property, I said. Multiple times. With him. After I told her to stay away. Yes. And you have excellent documentation of that trespassing. which will be very useful in divorce proceedings. What you don't have is any legal justification for implying to your entire neighborhood that she's some kind of predator. I didn't imply anything. I stated facts and let people draw their own conclusions. That's exactly the problem. David sighed. Look, I understand you're angry. You have every right to be angry. But this kind of campaign can backfire badly. If Jessica's attorney is smart, and she will be once Jessica hires one, she'll use these posts to paint you as vindictive and unstable. She'll argue you're deliberately damaging her reputation. She might even get a restraining order. Against me? I'm not the one trespassing. Against your social media activity. Against your posting of her image without consent. There are legal avenues she can pursue, and right now you're giving her ammunition. My phone buzzed with another Nextdoor notification. Someone had shared my post to a larger Boston area group. The post is spreading, I said. I know, that's what I'm worried about. David's tone shifted. Tyler, I'm your attorney and your friend. I'm telling you this has to stop. Delete the post. Stop engaging with the responses. Let me handle the legal aspects of the divorce. She hasn't even hired an attorney yet. She will. Probably in the next day or two, once she realizes you're serious about the settlement terms. And when she does, her first move will be to collect evidence of any harassing behavior on your part. I pulled up the Nextdoor thread. 43 comments now. People sharing their own stories of suspicious activity. Someone had created a neighborhood watch group. Another person suggested organizing patrols. What if I just let it run its course? I asked. I don't add anything else. I just let people discuss what they've seen. You're still the one who started the discussion. You're still responsible for the narrative you created. David paused. And Tyler? Some of these comments are getting ugly. People are talking about confronting these strangers if they see them. Someone mentioned having a concealed carry permit. This could escalate into something dangerous. I hadn't thought about that. I scrolled through the comments again, seeing them differently now. Kevin Walsh had written, "If I see anyone lurking around playground equipment in this neighborhood, they're going to have a very bad day." Rita Allen. I paused. Allen. I told myself not to use that name, but this was a real person commenting on my post. I couldn't control what real people were named. Rita from Oak Avenue had written, "My husband works for BPD. I'm sending him these photos." Delete it, David said again, before someone does something stupid. I moved the cursor to the delete button, hovered there. Jessica's face appeared in my mind. Not crying, not panicking. The way she'd looked 6 months ago before I knew. Laughing at something on her phone. Brandon's text, probably. Planning their Miami trip while I sat across from her at dinner, talking about our anniversary. I'll think about it, I said. Tyler, I said I'll think about it. I have to go. I hung up before he could argue further. The doorbell rang. I checked the front door camera feed. A Brookline police cruiser sat in my driveway. Officer standing on my porch, mid-30s, looking bored. I went downstairs and opened the door. Tyler Brennan? The officer had a name tag, Patterson. No relation to David, presumably. That's me. I'm Officer Patterson with Brookline PD. We received a call about a social media post regarding suspicious activity in this neighborhood. You're the one who posted it? I am. 2 people have been trespassing on my property repeatedly. I have video documentation. Can I see it? I led him to my office, pulled up the camera footage, showed him Jessica and Brandon entering my backyard, using the swing set, the timestamp from last Tuesday. Officer Patterson watched without expression. And you don't know these individuals? I know them. I didn't identify them in the post. But you posted their images to a public forum suggesting they might be a threat to children. I posted that they were trespassing on private property and loitering near playground equipment. Both true statements. Mr. Brennan. Officer Patterson turned away from the monitor. I'm going to be straight with you. I know who these people are. Half the neighborhood knows who they are. Your wife and her boyfriend, right? I didn't answer. Look, I get it. Divorce is messy. But what you're doing here, creating this kind of panic in the neighborhood, it's not okay. People are scared. Parents are changing their routines. Someone's going to get hurt. She's trespassing. Then file a police report for trespassing. Get a restraining order if you want. But don't use social media to turn your neighbors into a mob. He pulled out a business card. I'm going to strongly suggest you delete that post. If you don't, and if this situation escalates, there could be legal consequences. Harassment, defamation, inciting public panic, understand? I took the card. Understood. Good. He glanced at the monitor again, at the frozen image of Jessica on the swing. For what it's worth, I'm sorry about your situation, but handle it the right way. After he left, I sat in my office for a long time, staring at the next door thread. 51 comments now. Someone had posted a photo of a white Lexus parked on Maple Street with the question, "Is this the car?" It was Jessica's car. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. You son of a bitch, Jessica's voice, raw and shaking. The police just came to my sister's house. My boss called me about concerning social media activity. My mother saw the post. Do you have any idea what you've done? I posted about trespassing on my property. You made me sound like a predator. People think I'm dangerous. Someone followed me from the grocery store today asking if I was the woman from next door. Maybe you shouldn't have kept coming back to my house. I was trying to talk to you. I was trying to fix this. By bringing him to our backyard? By using our swing set? Silence. Delete the post, she said finally. Please. Tyler, please. This has gone too far. Sign the settlement. What? Sign the settlement agreement David sent you. 70-30 split, no contest. Sign it, and I'll delete the post. That's extortion. That's a trade. Your reputation for my assets. Seems fair. Tyler, I can't. That agreement is insane. I'd be giving up everything. You already gave up everything. I'm just making it official. She was crying now. I could hear it in her breathing. I'll sign a fair agreement, she said. 50-50. That's what the law says anyway. I'll sign that today. But you have to delete the post. 70-30. I can't live on 30%. I can't afford rent. I can't. You should have thought about that before you brought your trainer to my house. Please. Her voice broke completely. Please, Tyler. People are threatening me. Someone left a note on my car. I'm scared. I looked at the monitor. The empty swing set. The backyard where she'd kissed him. 70-30, I said. You have until 5 o'clock tomorrow. I hung up. The phone rang at 4:47 p.m. the next day. David Patterson. She signed, he said. Jessica signed the settlement. 70-30 split, no contest, no alimony. It's done. I stood at my kitchen window looking out at the swing set. The afternoon light cast long shadows across the grass. And the post? David asked. I pulled up next door on my laptop. The thread had grown to 78 comments. Someone had organized a neighborhood watch meeting for next week. Parents were still sharing concerns about suspicious individuals. I clicked delete. The post disappeared. All 78 comments, all the shares, all the speculation, gone in an instant. It's down, I said. Good. I'll file the paperwork Monday. This should be finalized within 60 days. After we hung up, I sat at the kitchen table and looked around the house. My house now. The white colonial with black shutters, the granite countertops we'd picked together, the hardwood floors we'd refinanced to afford. All mine. It felt empty. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Thank you for deleting it. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't respond. Just blocked the number and set my phone down. The cameras kept recording. Motion alerts for squirrels and passing cars and the occasional neighbor walking their dog. I checked them less frequently as the weeks passed. Eventually, I turned off the notifications altogether. Jessica moved to an apartment in Cambridge. I heard through mutual friends, the few who still talk to me, that she and Brandon had broken up within a month. Apparently, the stress of the divorce, the neighborhood incident, the shame of it all had been too much. He'd wanted someone fun and uncomplicated. She'd become neither. I changed the locks, painted the bedroom, took down the wedding photos. The divorce was finalized on a gray January morning. I signed the papers in David's office, and just like that, 10 years dissolved into a legal document and a property transfer. I sold the swing set to a family down the street. Watched them load it into their truck, their kids already arguing about who got to swing first. Emma Caldwell waved at me from her yard as they drove away. The house appreciated in value. My job gave me a promotion. I dated occasionally, careful, cautious encounters that never went beyond a few weeks. I'd learned my lesson about trust, but late at night, alone in the house that was finally, completely mine, I sometimes wondered if the lesson I'd learned was the right one. I'd won. I'd kept the house, the assets, the upper hand. I'd documented everything, played the long game, used every advantage. I'd been smart where Jessica had been reckless, strategic where she'd been emotional. I'd won. So why did it feel like I'd lost something irretrievable? The cameras still recorded everything. Perfect digital memories of an empty backyard, a vacant driveway, a life reduced to motion alerts and timestamps. I'd protected myself completely, built walls so high that nothing could hurt me again. Nothing could reach me at all. One evening in March, I was reviewing security footage, habit now, not necessity, when I noticed Emma Caldwell in my backyard again. She'd found the gap in the fence, even though the swing set was gone. She stood in the empty space where it had been, looking confused. I went outside. "Hey, Emma, looking for something?" She turned, startled. "Oh, hi, Mr. Brennan. I forgot you took the swings down." "Sold them. Family with kids needed them more than I did." She nodded, scuffing her shoe in the grass. "This is where I saw them. That lady and the man. I didn't mean to get anyone in trouble." "You didn't get anyone in trouble. You just told the truth. My mom said the lady was your wife and that you got divorced because of what I saw." I crouched down to her level. "No, Emma. I got divorced because my wife made choices that broke our marriage. What you saw was just proof. You didn't cause anything." She looked relieved. "Okay, good." She started back toward the fence, then turned. "Mr. Brennan, are you going to get the swings back? When you're not sad anymore?" The question hit harder than it should have. "Maybe someday," I said. She nodded and squeezed back through the fence. I stood in the empty yard, looking at the bare patch of ground where the swing set had been, where Jessica and I had talked about future children, where she'd betrayed that future with Brandon, where I'd turned my pain into leverage and my home into a fortress. The cameras watched me from their mounted positions, recording everything, protecting nothing that mattered. I went inside and opened my laptop, pulled up the folder labeled Trespassing Evidence. Months of screenshots, videos, timestamps, documentation. The entire architecture of my revenge, preserved in perfect digital clarity. I dragged the folder to the trash. The computer asked if I was sure. Warned me the files would be permanently deleted. I clicked yes. The folder disappeared. I didn't feel better. Didn't feel worse. Just felt the same hollow emptiness that had settled in the day Jessica left. But maybe that was the real lesson. Not that I should have trusted more or verified less. Not that I should have fought harder or forgiven easier. Just that some things, once broken, can't be fixed by winning. Some losses can't be recouped by taking more. I documented everything, controlled everything, won everything. And in the end, I was still alone in a house full of cameras, recording a life that no one was watching. The swing set was gone. Jessica was gone. The future we'd planned was gone. All I had left was the evidence that it had happened, and the knowledge that being right doesn't always mean being whole. I turned off the cameras and sat in the dark, listening to the empty house settle around me. Sometimes the only thing worse than losing is winning at any cost, and discovering too late that the cost was everything you were fighting for in the first place.